Hello, you multi monstro sites, and thank you to John McGowan for providing the malt mention to introduce Ralphie Review 1027. I'm not great with numbers, I'm not great with anything, but do you know what? The important thing is I just soldier on, because that's what we all need to do in the modern world. Rightio. I'm Ralphie, by the way. I may as well introduce myself in case you haven't visited my channel before and you're wondering who the bunnety old bism is sitting behind the barrel in some rustic, faraway sort of Lord of the Ringsy type location with a funny accent as well. You know, it's all adding up. Well, I'm a whisky reviewer. And I've been around whisky since the 1980s, so we're talking about 40 years. So I'm still drinking after 40 years, which reassures you, and you'll be delighted to know that I've not become an alcoholic and killed myself. So be aware, by the way, I'm going to do an extra soon on managing a consumption of alcohol. I like to do a new video about it every year, and certainly I have plenty of experience with being responsible around alcohol. And what happens is that you end up focusing on quality rather than quantity. This is so important, and in particular I enjoy neat spirits in a nosing and tasting glass. And I take my time with the spirit, and I don't physically drink that much. And it just makes everything so much easier. And it also helps, by the way, because I can occasionally be a bit of an outsized person, particularly in the winter. But when it comes to the summertime and making my seasonal cut and getting into shape, spirits, just neat spirits with a glass of water, is a way of restricting the calories, because I'm not consuming high sugar beverages, sweetened drinks, and all the sort of stuff that's packed with alcohol and calories from sugar. With alcohol, the calories are, with whiskey, the calories are in the alcohol itself. And we're moderating our consumption, so all is good. So talking of good, I've got a nice good whiskey for you. I'm going to review it. It's called Benromach Peat Smoke. Here it is. It's part of the Contrasts range, bottled at 46%, non-chill filtered, because it says so in little writing up the side of the label there. And if you squint hard enough, and you'll need your reading glasses, and you'll probably also need your magnifying steampunker, you will see in little writing that it's aged 8 years in oak casks. So now we've got an age statement. This is looking good. 46% unchill filtered. It's got an age statement, and they're also giving us some additional information from Benromach, because they're giving the phenolic level, which they're calling 57 parts per million. Now, the thing is, when you really get to know whiskey, is that 57 parts per million when the malted barley is going into the washback to be fermented, or is it the reading when the final new make spirit comes out the second spirit still? Because I can tell you right now, there is a difference. But hey, they're certainly heading in the right direction. Benromach, a small, hands-on, reputable distillery which makes amazing whiskey, which is subsequently bottled to variable standards. And what by that I mean, you have to check carefully which one you buy. If you don't want chill filtration, don't buy anything under 46% from Benromach. Just don't do it. There are other options. Stick with them. So I better pour a glass now and let it open up slightly. I've spent a lot of time with this whiskey, getting it to open up. When I first opened the bottle 8 weeks ago, I've had that 8 weeks now. It was harsh, a little bit bitter, a little bit flat in the finish, and frankly, I wasn't particularly impressed. Now, they do give a little bit of information to help us. So that basically it's been finished in first fill sherry hogshead casks. Right. They don't say for how long. In my opinion, judging by the experience so far, not very long. And I think this is where experience kicks in. And it comes with time. And we all develop our own experience. I've developed mine, you'll develop yours. We realise that this just needs time. It needs time to oxidise, settle down and open up. So if I could just kind of put it into perspective for you. When this whisky was bottled, it was bottled in a bottling plant. A big stainless steel vat was filled up with the blend of casks from the same distillery, all single malt. And they were left to lie for a bit until they were ready for bottling. And then with a rush and a gush of liquor along pipes, through valves, into bottling machines, and under significant agitation, the liquor goes into the bottle where it is virtually instantly corked and sealed and labelled, and the bottles, by the way, are getting spun around at this point. They're getting agitated, they're getting shaken on a conveyor belt, and then they're bundled into boxes and then into the back of a lorry or a van to go to the retailers for sale. Now, considering that whisky and every other whisky has been quietly, as the industry likes to say, slumbering peacefully in warehouses, it really shakes the spirit up. And you will find that when we're buying better quality of whisky that's delivered to us with more integrity of physical delivery, in other words, higher strength, 46%, unchill filtered, and ideally no colouring added, we have to treat it respectfully. And not just with, I'm not talking about due deference and respect and worshipping the malt and Uskabe and all that nonsense that sometimes gets churned out, but actually just giving it time. When we open the bottle, it's been in shock, it's then in hibernation, the spirit can't breathe in the bottle despite the fact that it's been breathing for all the years in the cask. We pour a glass and then we expect it to be ready to go. Doesn't work that way. So this is why when you open a bottle, never ever judge the spirit you're drinking, whether it be whiskey, rum or whatever, on first impressions of the first taste. I notice far too many people will take the first sip and then go with their first reaction, which is, I'm not sure about this, I don't particularly like it. Whiskey's a living thing. It's in the name spirit. It's ethereal. It's delicate, it's complex, it's intense, it's subtle. It's all these things bundled into one. It needs time. Time in the bottle, away from sunlight. You take the cork off, you might leave the cork off for a while. You might do something else to help open it up. But if you want to know about that, you'll have to come back to Ralphie Review 1027 Extras, in which I will be talking about how to speed up the opening of a whisky from the bottle when you uncork it. This is part of the knowledge because I notice people struggle with this, even though it's more or less hidden in plain sight. So, hidden in plain sight is the aroma of this whisky. Where will I start? Crispy, appley, slightly yeasty, and medium to delicate, intense phenolics. It is peaty more than smoky at the moment. And there's a lovely resinous note in there as well. I'm getting sort of slight raspberry jam, a little bit of apricot, a little bit of almost bitterness in the nose. And don't rush, folks. You will pick up sensations on the nose the more time you spend around whisky. It'll help if you just gently roll the spirit around the glass, but please don't do this. Don't do this. See, when you agitate the whisky, particularly in the first pour, you're just doing the same amount of damage is happening by necessity in a bottling hall. You're over exciting the whisky, and therefore when the aromas come off, they're agitated, they're confused, they're not layered, they're not coming off in sequence, and therefore just roll them all around the inside of the glass, just a roly-poly, no shaky, and then take it to your nose, but not too close, and leave your mouth open as you inhale. And then you will get simply more of what's there, more cleanly and tangibly delivered, rather than just one big confusing mess in the nose. It just becomes more separated, more segregated, more intelligently delivered by the alcohol that's evaporating out of the glass. Something slightly peppery and tequila in there as well. I'm getting this distant tequila note. Bit odd, but let's have a sip of this. So much better than when I first opened the bottle. And the experience was dominated by the harshness of the peat, the rawness of the peat. In my opinion, at 8 years old, this has been bottled 2 years too early. It should have gone to 10. There should have been a slower, more methodical activity from the original casks before the finishing cask came in. Because what's happening is the sherry is putting a sort of slight overcoat. It's kind of beefing up what never came from the original casks, which are absolutely ex-refill cask, and I suspect they were ex-refill Benroma casks. Because you see that kind of continuity of signature when they use their own empty casks at a distillery for filling up with a new make spirit. So I'm going to add some water to this from my nice crystal clear. Is it from the gushing mountain streams of the Highlands of Scotland? No, it's my local tap water. What do? I pour it into a jug, I let it rest, let the chlorine that's been put in the domestic water supply lift off, clear away, evaporate, and then when you nose the water, it should be virtually odourless. Although I have to let you know, this is a bit eccentric, but water does have smell, because you can smell different waters. So I've added 10 millilitres of water to this, just to settle it down, dilute the alcohol, open it up, and temper the sharpness and the harshness of the spirit. Now, while that's sitting there, there's two things I want to mention here. Now, one is something I've picked up on the back of, well, the side of the bottle. Right, see that? I'm going to read it out to you. I'll hold it close so you can pick it up in case you want to take a phone screen grab. Okay, here it goes. Here we go. I quote, "We make Benromach single malt Scotch whisky with only a handful of ingredients: malted barley, water and yeast, plus of course the craft and expertise of our people. This is the Benromach way." Now, unfortunately, in making that statement, they could be perceived as lying, because I'm not quibbling with anything they've said, because they're stating that their single malt Scotch whisky, they've made the whisky with only a handful of ingredients: malted barley, water and yeast. Now, I certainly agree with the craft and expertise of the people, because I very highly rate the team at Benromach for the skills in whisky making they bring to this distillery. It is the on-site team at Benromach that absolutely make the reputation of this distillery. They make very good whisky. They make very good spirit, right? And make very good spirit. And in fact, what they're calling here as single malt Scotch whisky is in fact a description of new make spirit. Because single malt Scotch whisky does not comprise of 3 simple ingredients. It comprises of 3 ingredients plus oak cask extract. And I cannot for the life of me understand why right across the Scotch whisky industry the blatant lie is perpetuated by industry professionals that whisky is made from 3 simple ingredients. No, it is not. New make spirit, also called cleric, also called raw British spirit, is made from 3 ingredients, which aren't particularly simple. Yeast is not a simple ingredient. It really, really isn't. So what they're saying is that new make spirit is whisky. They never mention, for some bizarre, outrageous reason, and it's professionally negligent for the entire industry to carry on with this fiction fantasy that Scotch whisky's only 3 simple ingredients. It's not true. Please, when you're visiting a distillery, please, on behalf of all the whisky fans, when you hear this bunkum, this claptrap, please remind your tour guide or master distiller or master blender or superstar entertainer person, whatever they're calling them these days, that in fact it's new make spirit that's made of 3 ingredients. Whisky, by law, must contain the extract of oak casks not exceeding 700 litres. What is it? What is it about the industry? It's, by the way, someone could take any distillery could be taken to court for this in a civil action. And the person taking them to court would win their case on technicalities. It beggars belief. Moving on. Let's move on. Another thing that I want to highlight here is that, let me see, where is it? 1 minute. I was going to mention 2 things, and I forgot what my second thing is, so I'm just going to carry on, start smelling and tasting this, because I've got quite distracted, malt mates, with my mini rant. But you know where I'm coming from. You know why I'm saying this. You know it's true. I've remembered what I was going to tell you. I reviewed this whisky back in Ralphie Review 541. An earlier branded version of this. It was back in June 2015, so it's 9 years ago. 9 years ago. And I gave it 90 out of 100. This is a whole different version. The last time it really had that fullness, that range of experience. This is more curtailed, more restrained. It's much more unsettled peat interaction. If you like a rough peaty whisky, you're going to be happy with, particularly off the first pour, you're going to be happy with it. I highly recommend, if you buy this bottle, prepare it beforehand just to get the air into the liquor, to open up. You're going to get a far better experience. And I can also add, and I want to say this before I forget it, because I'm prone to forgetting things, that when you pour the glass and you make it last over a couple of hours, see the last half hour, after the first hour, the sheer complexity, character and beauty of Benromach New Make Spirit restores and salvages, tempers and tames the coarseness of the peat influence and turns it into something that's very, very palatable and really quite decent. Smell. A little bit more perfumed now, a little bit more slightly Bowmore-ish, slight Parma violets. It takes me back to the deep dark days of Bowmore many years ago. But this is far more contained, restrained and balanced within the full range of flavours coming from the spirit. I'd also like to point out, having added 2 teaspoonfuls of water, after a few minutes we're getting Scotch mist. So when Benromach say they don't chill filter, they're not lying to us. They are not chill filtering. When you see the Scotch mist, it's the proof of the declaration, because we cannot go on declarations from some distillers. They'll say they've not chill filtered when they have heavily filtered, super filtered, but just to save a bit of energy at the bottling plant, they didn't put the chill on because it was January. Benromach are not guilty of that, thank goodness. Slightly gingery, barley creamy note, barley sugar, lime, very soft banana, soft, slightly barbecued, grilled pineapple in there. Soft, delicious, assimilated apricot in with some soft spices. Touch of clove, just a touch of clove, not a lot, and just a hint of cinnamon. But this is something that's activated from the barley by the presence of the peat smoke. Taste. A far more settled, languid, which means soft and gentle. That's what languid means. Arrival. The peat grows in intensity from the arrival, from the slightly syrupy barley sugar substance that's coming from the excellent pot stills at this distillery. So that the peatiness grows into after the arrival, into the development, and grows beautifully with a little bit of baked apple, a slight hint of green apple, soft gingery note, as in sweet ginger, as in ginger and ginger syrup, and just settles down to a fairly soft, crispy hint of a tannic, slightly short finish, but it's 8-year-old whisky. An extra 2 years would have transformed this in the casks. They really would. But it was not to be. But there we have it. Is it a competent whisky? Yeah, it's perfectly competent. Do I recommend it? Yes, I do, so long as you attend to your malt forensics with this. So you've got to, the first glass may well be harsh, nippy, and a little bit fusile and chimney sooty. But leave the cork off, let it open up, do the stuff that you're going to find out that's handy to do in my next review, 1027 Extras, coming along just shortly. And let's give this a malt mark. Fantastic. I'm giving this a very well earned 82 out of 100. And there you have it. Malt mates, I'm Ralphie. I hope you found this in depth, slightly anorak whisky review to be interesting and engaging. I cannot deliver these reviews in bite-sized 4-minute chunks. It just doesn't work that way. Whisky doesn't work that way. Whisky needs time, and reviewing whisky needs time in order to say what needs to be said, considering the rising price of whisky. It is a luxury item, and it's increasingly luxury prices. So it's a good thing we're stashing up, as many of you Ralphie regulars know about, because I've been preaching that over the years. Anyway, I'm away now to get ready for my next review. See you soon. Bye-bye.